Hello, BookTube. Well, as you could see, I have a guest. My friend Sam is back once again. Care to wave to my imaginary BookTube friends? We often do a BookTube video when he comes up. You're practically a veteran.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, what on earth did you think when you first heard me say I'm making videos online? What a weird thing that must have been.
Yeah, well, I'm used to sort of integrating weird knowledge about you, Steve.
I think it must...
I let it pass with no comment, like most things that you tell me about yourself.
Yes, like when he walked in the door today, and instead of, hey, how are you, how was your trip, it was all, the details of this latest shark attack are amazing. But the weirdness of it must be part of the reason why none of our fellow critics have joined me in making the great leap into YouTube.
Well, most critics are not photogenic, as a rule.
It's true, most of them are.
They,
and would it be safe to say, much as we love them, if anybody's watching, I don't think any of them are watching either, but much as we love them, wouldn't it be safe to say that a lot of them aren't very good at thinking on their feet?
They're nervous about it. They're scared to extemporize. Yeah.
So they got, what's his name from The Atlantic will interview them at 92nd Street Y, ask a simple softball question, and they'll sit back and ponder it for 5 minutes before they answer.
Not just ponder it, but sort of go like this. Deeply tortured and angry.
With the whole audience eagerly, their pens are poised to take the answer down. And the answer is going to be the dumbest boilerplate you've ever farted out of your mouth. But the whole audience is taking notes because this person is profound.
You could email them questions. They could spend a week answering the questions, and then AI could recite them for a tag video. You could do that.
It's amazing how many of them want questions emailed ahead of time. That's how bad they are.
Yeah.
That they can't even think on their feet to answer book-related questions.
Yeah, I think it all comes from Nabokov or something.
As most evil things do. Every time I read a biography of him, that it compulsively mentions that one time when he was chasing butterflies, he fell headlong in a ditch and almost broke his neck. I always want to write in the margins, almost doesn't count. go all the way next time. But now that I've mentioned how poorly book poobahs are at answering off-the-cuff questions, we're going to put it to the test.
Yep.
The ultimate test.
Yep.
Because this is the ultimate book test, which I did eons ago on this channel, but I did it myself. I did it when I'm sure that you were thinking BookTube was just a fad or something. I certainly wasn't involving anybody in BookTube when I did this. And also, as many of my imaginary BookTube friends have pointed out, that my BookTube videos from all those years ago are different because I'm speaking softer. And the reason why is because I have two old senior citizens, one on one side of me and one on the other, that are sometimes visible in the videos. But I didn't. One of you put forward the theory that the reason I'm more soft-spoken in those earlier videos is not because I lack confidence. It's because I didn't want to wake my girls. How many times did you come here with them? Good Lord. Have you been coming here so long that you intersected with Beatles?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah, I met Beetle.
It's a long time. Beetle. You met Beetle. You're a lot older than Micah Cummins, who was here last time. But you were his age when I met you. Was
Michael Cummins alive when I met Beetle?
No, he was not. He had not been born.
I was on Dalrymple Street.
You were around his age when I met you, and some weird force has preternaturally aged you. I think I'm going to blame your kids. I'll just say that. What other thing could it be?
That would be it.
It's got to be that. It can't be anything else.
Is this one of the tag questions?
No.
What has aged you?
No. The tag was made by very young people. Mm-hmm. They don't believe they're ever going to age, so there's no hint of that here. And also, I should point out, while I'm mentioning that the tag was made at the dawn of BookTube, and BookTube originated as a fan service for YA. Right. So we'll frog march through those questions. We don't need to worry about those. But this was done by Chapter Chicks, and I linked their original video 6 years ago when I did this. So I'll link again. I have no idea if they're still on BookTube. No idea at all. We're going to see how you handle the ultimate book tag. Because we're ultimate book creatures. We actually had squealing amounts of fun just a few minutes ago putting clipped book reviews in the appropriate books. I bet you're all envious that you're not here. So, question number one. Do you get sick while reading in a car?
No, I don't. I'm very fortunate that way.
And you never have?
Never have. No.
what is the? I remember reading theories as to why that is. Something about the inner ear.
Yeah.
It's never happened to me either.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife can't do it, and my kids can't do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Can't do it. But they start to get sick.
Well, they can't watch videos, so I don't know. We'll see when they start reading.
If they start reading.
If they start reading.
They're digital natives. They may never understand all these book things.
Yeah, well, we don't encourage reading.
Number 2, which author's writing style is completely unique to you, and why? I think 6 years ago I went on a little rant about how unique is an ultimate word, so there's no sense putting a qualifying adjective around it, and also that there are no unique styles. That's just what authors say about themselves, but you get the gist, the gist of the question.
Sure.
Instead of unique, maybe suitable.
Suitable to me.
Or aligned. There are a whole bunch of authors that just feel like you, right? Only that's probably the reverse, right? It's probably not that they feel like you, but that they made you.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know if this is totally responsive to the question, but just in the matter of like a style that does seem to stand out and seems unique, and that I have a personal memory of being aware of. A long time ago, when I was like Cummins' age or whatever, I decided to read Montaigne, and for whatever reason, I got a copy of the Florio translations of the essays of Montaigne, and they're incredible. He was a contemporary or predecessor of Shakespeare, so he writes this incredible, florid Elizabethan English. When you first read it, you don't understand it at all. You don't understand the language at all. And then you start to get it, and once you start to sort of connect with it, and its perfect marriage of translator and style with writer, I can't read him in other translations, even though other translations are infinitely more readable, because he's just so wedded to that particular style. So,
and it's an art on its own.
Oh yeah,
a voice that's completely different from Montaigne.
Oh yeah, completely. Yeah, NYRB did a selection of his translations of that I recommend.
Wow. The Florio Montaigne. Well, the Florio Montaigne is a really good example of what people always talk about when they're writing a new review of some translation, which is that some translations are arts on their own. They're works of art on their own.
Right.
So the Screech translation of Montaigne is far more accurate.
Exactly.
And it's good. I'm not meaning to shrug. I have the Penguin Classic of the Screech translation, but the Florio translation is a book on its own.
Right.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way about the North Plutarch or particular translations of Ovid or Homer, where it's the Elizabethans just in general tend to boom out these translations that are just
right.
They're their own things. They're their own things. The men who were doing these things, they did not want the work to overshadow their own work.
Right. We're going to get onto Dryden again?
No. Once the wine is flowing, Dryden will certainly get mentioned, but not now. Okay, number 3 is the first indication of the YA thing, okay. But it is an interesting thing, because I think it passes you completely, and I'm curious, I don't actually know. Number 3 is Harry Potter series or the Twilight Saga, and give 3 points to defend your answers, out of, I presume, 300 points that you could come up with. But my question is, have you ever read either?
No, but I've seen the last Harry Potter movie, and I did it only to really annoy some of my Harry Potter idolaters, friends who are Harry Potter idolaters, so that I could watch the movie and then say, oh no, I know everything about Harry Potter. I understand what happens. I know the whole series, and just have them be very angry. And I saw one of the Twilight movies too, but I didn't understand anything that was going on in the Twilight movie.
Twilight movies aren't hard to understand.
Really?
Oh, no. A super hot teenage werewolf tells an innocent young woman that the baby she's carrying will someday, very soon, be that super hot werewolf's wife. What's hard to understand about that?
Yeah. But the thing is, in the movie, nothing was actually happening. They were just sort of sitting in rooms together, sort of staring at each other.
There's a lot of sitting and staring.
And sort of doing a lot of glowering and a lot of sort of low talking in very passionate ways.
And they were runaway successes with moody teenagers. I don't know if there's any connection between those.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a license to print money for a while for moody teenagers. I wonder if any of those moody teenagers are embarrassed by how much they love those books. Those books, unlike maybe Harry Potter, the Twilight books are unrevisitable. They're a train wreck. So you're only going to be remembering how much you love them, how you could quote whole passages. You're not going to be able to get anything out of them. I don't think you get anything out of Harry Potter either.
The thing that struck me about that is she wrote another book, and then it got leaked. It was the manuscript got leaked somehow.
Oh, right.
And so she just pulled the book. She just said, "Forget it. I'm not publishing the book." It was the weirdest stand on principle I've ever heard in my entire life, because she just threw away like $100 million just because.
But that was a while ago.
It was a long time ago. I don't know what she's doing.
Now we've all made our peace with the fact that we live in the age of leaks.
Right.
Maybe she'd have been more blasé about it now.
I suppose.
But anyway, question number 4. Do you carry a book bag? And if so, what is in it besides books?
Oh, well, I have a shoulder bag, yeah. I didn't bring it here, but yeah, I have a shoulder bag. Well, I don't know, my laptop.
Laptop?
I need it. My Kindle, if I need my Kindle. But let's see, in the pockets,
what kind of Kindle do you have?
Paperwhite. Just the basic one.
Do you carry a mask in your bag?
Not
do you
anymore.
Need them in New York anymore?
Not anymore. Although we did 3 days ago.
For those of you watching this 10 years in the future, 3 days ago, New York City looked like something out of Blade Runner. The air quality was unbelievable. It was so thick you could cup it.
Yeah.
You run a cup through the air and get it.
Yeah,
There's wildfires in Canada.
Every New Yorker had to go into their closet and find
their
bag
old COVID
N95
Oh,
masks.
my. Oh, wow.
No, I have hand sanitizer. I have a little paper notebook and pens, and I have like an ID where I work. And
what about your wallet? Are you too much of a worrywart? Do you carry that on your person?
That's on my person.
Don't put it in your bag. I carry mine in my bag because I'm a book reviewer, so it's empty. It's just an ordinary Velcro wallet. Oh, man. Number 5. Do you smell books?
No, you don't want. If a book smells, it's not a. I mean, I suppose there's some sort of like ineffable smell.
The used book smell. Some people just go nuts.
No, but you and I have spent enough time working in used bookstores and putting out
you were
stock.
In the basement of one.
I was in the basement,
traffic.
in the sub-basement of a bookstore, which was all donated books. And if the box of books smelled, that was not a good thing. You didn't want that. So.
Okay, number 6. Books with or without illustrations.
Well, I don't care. But I did write.
You don't care? You did a piece for the New Yorker about book illustrations. How can you turn around now and say you don't care?
Well, I'm still going to read the book, but I like illustrated. No, I do. I like illustrated books very much. I love that series of all the sort of N.C. Wyatt.
Oh, yeah. And also the little collector's library, those little hardcovers with the gorgeous little black and white illustrations, the period illustrations, that I assume are copyright free.
Yeah.
I assume that for any classic you could get copyright free illustrations.
I think so, and I love all the Dickens books should have their illustrations, and I love the Dos Passos USA with the Reginald March spot drawings. I love those.
I don't have that penguin.
Yeah,
really wish I did.
There was a lot of mass markets that it would be in.
They also did that olive green trade paperback that's probably $200 if you went on eBay. It would probably be $200.
Yeah.
One of my imaginary booktube friends told me just the other day that what are those called? Modern classics? Penguin modern classics? Those big fat trade paperbacks with olive green spines.
Right.
Somebody told me the other day that the trade paperback of Joseph and His Brothers is 3 digits.
Oh.
To go and buy that. Maybe the USA Today is too. I see it sometimes in the hardcover, but I really want that paperback.
Right.
He's an author that we agree on, isn't he?
Yes.
That is a great book.
I think so. Yeah.
A great book that not enough Americans read.
I think it's one of my top 5 American novels of the 20th century for sure.
Let's see here. Number 7. What book did you love while reading, but discovered later it wasn't quality writing? And then in parentheses, the chapter chicks include an example of their own. But it's been a while. I bet your example would have changed by now, so we'll just bury it in silence. Have you ever? It doesn't have to be a book that you review.
Right.
Those of you who are.
Well, this is usually someone grew up loving something and then they
and you go back to it.
it.
Well, let's do that, as opposed to those of you. I haven't made it clear. Sam is also a professional book reviewer, so we read a lot of the same new releases. But maybe it's a little bit too early or too impermanent.
Yeah, and I don't
to know that.
I don't reread a lot also. Yeah.
This question applies a lot more to me. But
Yeah.
when's the last time that you revisited a book that you read, let's say, 10 or 20 years ago? Since you weren't a Twilight tween.
Right.
What do you ever do that?
I do it infrequently, but I do it.
So would the most likely case where you would do that be if something like the NYRB reprints something and you're reading it more or less professionally?
If
you might actually write it up.
Yeah, or if there's a new translation of something, or I don't know. Let's place a bet. When I read the new translation of the Brothers Karamazov, am I going to think that the writing is good, or am I going to think this is a really powerful work of genius, but with terrible writing? Because I remember liking the writing.
Well,
when I first read it.
When you review the new Michael Katz translation, I don't know that you'll look beyond the blurb on the cover. It has a remarkable blurb on the cover. You definitely want to get the finished copy. The blurb is nice and prominent. But wait, are you saying that you haven't reread The Brothers Karamazov in a long time?
No, I've read it once in my life. You know what I find? This question is posed very often. What do you find didn't really hold up? But I find more often that the opposite is true. There's a lot of stuff that people say, oh, this person wasn't a great prose stylist. People say that about, like, George Eliot, for instance.
Yeah.
So you go into Middlemarch thinking, I know this is a big towering work of genius, but it's not going to be nothing special on the level of prose. But it's incredible on the level of prose. She's a remarkable writer. And even someone who's famously bad, like Theodore Dreiser, there is bad stuff. But even him, his prose has incredible power and drag and undertow to it. And a lot of times it's even quite good on the surface. I mean, he just wrote too much and he didn't revise. So he let in a lot of junk as well as especially as he went later and he was paying less and less attention. But I mean, when he was going good, his prose is really strong and it's really, I think.
So you're saying there's hope for people who write too much and never revise.
Well, yes.
That's good to know.
You wait 100 years, someone on a BookTube channel.
Yeah, someone who's only just being born will be doing a BookTube video with me.
People have been trashing his prose for decades. But I'd like to say that there's a few sentences.
People have been trashing his prose for decades in this room. I find that's true, too. The one person that just does not do it is Frank Norris.
Frank Norris,
no matter how many times I revisit
probably
The Octopus, it just doesn't ever, or McTeague, it doesn't ever happen. Okay, well, let's see here. We're going to be fast marching through some of these. Some of these questions aren't. I'll do one because it'll be fun because you're the most literary person I know. But let's see here. Number 8. Do you have any funny stories involving books from your childhood?
Funny stories?
I don't have any.
Real laugh rides.
My childhood stories about books all involve my dogs eating them, not me having any adventures with them. Do you know from, like, has your mother ever told you if you were one of those kids that pretended that they were reading before they knew how to read? Were you turning pages in books?
I don't know. I don't think so. You know, I was a normal reader growing up. I wasn't an enormous reader. Here's almost a funny story. That's the best I can do, folks.
There'll be lots of funny stories later in the night.
Yeah.
At least one of us will be convinced they're funny. The other one will be drinking to numb the pain.
My parents read to me. I wasn't a huge reader growing up, but I do think them reading to me, and they didn't just read to me when I was small, but they did that thing where they were reading Dickens. And my father read Call of the Wild at one point when I was youngish. And I remember, it's a dumb story also, being outside and there being a big Alaskan Husky. And I don't know, I was like 8 years old or something. And I went up and I said, what's the line? Something like, that buck, he fight like 2 hells. Or something like that. I was like an 8-year-old and I just said it to the dog's owner or something. My father was right there. He looked at me and he was like, what was that? But it was because it was just a line that I had remembered from the book. That wasn't even almost funny. That was like, sort of like...
Actually, my father also tried to get me to read. He actually got me to read Call of the Wild. Very involuntarily.
Really?
And then asked me,
did you like it?
What did you think of it? I think it was a kid's version. There was once there've been a million kids version. I think it was a kid's version. I don't think it was a whole book. And I don't remember this, but I'm told that all I would say to him is, dogs aren't like that at all. And he just rolled his eyes. I was pretty hopeless even then. What about your own kids?
That Frida, she
they-
fight like two
She
hells.
fight like two hells. She did this morning. We encountered a big dog that just he stiff walked up to her like, oh, look at this little thing, and she let him get close. She always lets people get close, and then she exploded like Mount Vesuvius. Just you stand up straight. You call that posture? What are you wagging your tail for? There's nothing to be wagging the tail for in this world. And he just drooped further and further and further. Like, oh my God, this thing is going to kill me. She was like the size of his head, but it didn't matter at all. Do your own kids, are they fascinated with books?
I think so, yeah, they like books. Yeah.
A good child launch, we'll see. You never can tell. But
No, you never can tell, but yeah, we read them.
all right, let's see. Question number 9. What is the thinnest book on your shelf? Do you have any slim volumes of poetry?
I have many slim volumes.
Do
of
you
poetry.
really?
Yes.
Why? Why would you do that to yourself? Why? You never write about it.
No, I never write about it. And actually, it's true that mostly I would get a selected or a collected edition rather than a slim volume. I don't know what the slimmest book on my shelf is. Good Lord, how did I possibly know that? But it must be a volume.
The slimmest thing I have on my shelf is a pamphlet that you gave, a Robert Louis Stevenson pamphlet that you gave,
Really?
where he's railing against an intemperate cleric. And the smallest book that I have, you can almost see it behind us. A tiny little thing that Zach at the Brattle found for me. A little book called How to Be a Book Reviewer from like 100 years ago.
Oh, that's great.
He set it aside and gave it to me and said, maybe you should study up and maybe you'll get good at this.
But I do have one. When I worked at the Strand, they had, I can't remember what it's called now. It's, not the mass market size, and it's not half the mass market size. It's whatever. So it's like an 8th volume or like a dodeca something. Whatever. It's a tiny little novelty book, and they had all the Shakespeare editions.
Oh, wow.
So I have a Hamlet of that, and it's like
Well, I have the Penguin does that every decade. Every decade they have an anniversary. They come out with little penguins, tiny little things. I have a
really?
box set of a lot of those. Those are tiny.
Okay.
And then you, I'm sure you saw a million of when they did one in, I think for 2000. It was all those little penguins with orange backs to them, just tiny little slivers.
Yeah, I remember those, and they would just be like
Little bit from
Ralph
Beowulf
Emerson,
Right.
Self-Reliance,
but just a
or
tiny
something.
bit,
Yeah,
like one life or two from Vasari.
right.
Just Beowulf versus Grendel from Beowulf.
That's true.
There were a whole bunch of those
Yeah,
that are probably also monstrously collectible online.
yeah.
Okay, well, the next one, question number 10 is, what's the thickest book on your shelf? What's the biggest one?
Right.
For me, it's easy, because I do history and biography.
Yeah.
So Vincent Bugliosi's Reclaiming History
Is that really?
is 1,500 pages long, and with 1,500 more pages in the disc that's included in the back.
Right.
I lived with that thing when I reviewed it for we were editors and co-creators of an online literary journal called Open Letters Monthly, and I reviewed it for Open Letters Monthly. I agonized over that book.
Yeah.
Thought it would be the longest book that I ever got in connection with Open Letters Monthly, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
Actually, it was, because I got Zibaldani,
Oh yeah.
which is 3 times as big, but I didn't review it for us. I reviewed it for the Quarterly Conversation.
Yeah, I remember.
And I
I
promptly
remember
got rid of it. I had it, and I promptly got rid of it. And I wrote a 2,000-word review of Zibaldoni, and all I did in the whole course of the review was say, you would be crazy to read this.
Don't read this book.
Don't read this book.
Well, I had that novel Anniversaries that
Oh, right. Yes.
forgetting the author.
What about,
But this year I reviewed, partly on your encouragement, this novel, Divine Days, which is so big. So
Yeah.
it's 1,200, 1,300, and they did it pages, and they did it in a paperback, and it's so big that it's the only book I've ever seen that has a blurb on the spine, and the blurb reads horizontally. It doesn't have to go vertically. The blurb is on the spine and fits normally, just going across.
That was kind of a Rubicon book for me this year,
Yeah.
because that was one of the first times that I pointedly said to the publicist that I did not want a print copy, even though I love the book.
Right.
The ebook is enough. The ebook is good enough. That feels weird when you do that. It feels like jumping off into the unknown.
God, I know what you mean, but it's so,
That is long. There's one that I'm thinking of. I can't remember it. It's from 20 years ago, something like. It would have been right. Oh, what's his name? not the Yid. The Yid was quite long, but it's a big brown book. It was done by a guy who also does movies.
Yeah.
Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue. I can see it because I had it in my hand. I showed it to you at the Harvard Bookstore.
He makes movies, or
he makes movies, but or writes screenplays or something like that. And this was just a big brown thing. But yeah,
I don't have Clarissa. So.
You don't have Clarissa. You don't have the Penguin Classic.
No.
Clarissa? No. Have you ever read Clarissa?
No.
Well, we should plug that book. I mean, it's huge, but it's a great reprint.
Divine Days.
It's
yes.
fantastic
Yeah.
that it was reprinted. That is so wonderful.
Yeah. Real labor.
Your bookstore might be able to get it for you. They might be willing to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have a paperback of that.
It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. It just doesn't seem. I don't know. The publishing world seems to have given up on ebooks, but I love them. so I don't know. Let's see here. Question number 11. Do you write as well as read? Do you see yourself someday in the future being a writer? I think they probably mean fiction.
I think that's.
When's the last time you wrote a single word of fiction?
Of fiction? Yeah, good question.
That would have been 20 years ago, right?
Yeah,
Something like that.
Almost 20, yeah. That's right.
Are you ever tempted? No. I love it. Absolutely love it. We're doing an event for BookTube. We're big on events. We're doing June on the Range. We're concentrating on reading Westerns.
You're going to write a Western?
I'm already started. It's called, it's in my Google Files here. It's called Bury Him Last. And I'm having a blast. I was reading these dime store Westerns that I got at the Bravo.
Yeah.
For June on the Range, doing one every day, although not today. I should point out, this is the only video you're going to get from me today. There aren't going to be 5 videos, and it's not going to be a Steve stream. I've got a guest. But I was reading a few of those things, and every time I read a bad one, I was thinking, I could do better than this. And I don't need much nudging in that direction before I'll open up a file and start writing a book.
Yeah.
Let's see here. But the answer to the question is yes. Sam writes every week, and so do I. So we earn our living by our pens, but we are not novelists. Let's see here, and we're also not inveterately tongue-tied. At least, I'm assuming that you're not tongue-tied. You never get a chance to talk, so I don't really know. Nobody who shares a video with me gets a chance to talk. I'm assuming they're all just chatty Cathys. Hey, baby, how you doing? Let's see here. Number 12. Question number 12. When did you get into reading? Is your reading origin story fairly normal?
Yeah, it's completely normal.
I came late to reading, but yours is fairly normal. So you were exposed to books, didn't hate them.
I didn't hate them.
Gradually came to like them.
Wasn't an enormous reader, and then gradually came to like them more and more. Exactly.
Question number 13. What is your favorite classic book? Now here I want to specify 2 things. I'm sure that the girls at Chapter Chicks thought anything older than Twilight is a classic. BookTube usually thinks anything older than the 20th century. Of course, when I hear it, I think the classics of ancient Greece and Rome. So I'd like to ask both. Do you have a favorite from Greece and Rome?
Probably.
That you really like? Do you like Suetonius or any parts of Livy or the Greek tragedians?
It would be the tragedians. It would be Sophocles. I think. Okay. I think it would be.
And what about the typical definition before the 20th century?
Before the 20th century, I always wonder if I should say the single most obvious answer, but I think it is true in my case, and I'm not sure that people actually read it because it's so stereotypical. But I really do think War and Peace is that book for me. I've read it 3 times, and every time it's completely new, and it amazes me and annoys me and reveals itself to me in completely new ways. I love it. I love it, I think, twice as much as Anna Karenina, which is also obviously I love. But
you would be on a list. We're breaking David Murphy's heart here because he has read Anna Karenina I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
But I agree. I love War and Peace 10 times as much.
Yeah.
Although, if we're talking the non-Greek and Roman world, but before the 20th century, I think I might like Tale of Genji even more than War and Peace. I think I might.
Yeah, I can see
it's
that.
more beautiful.
Yes.
It might lack some other things. It's not as cohesive, but it is more. When it's beautiful, it's more beautiful. Than Tolstoy didn't really have an eye for beauty.
For beauty,
not that much. It's not really
the
thing you come away from War and Peace.
No, he had an eye for making fun of people who had tacky ideas about beauty. But that was
Yeah. Yeah, very much a dog in the manger thing when it comes to that and a few other things where he's perfectly happy to mock, but he doesn't have the thing he's mocking.
Yeah.
Very weird. Oh, now you're making me want to read War and Peace again. Is there going to be a big translation on the horizon
Another one?
of War and Peace? It's been a while since there
been a
was one. I know it's the Mount Everest of translations.
There was the Briggs one a while ago, and I just can't remember.
You would certainly do that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I suppose, but yeah.
I wouldn't let one of my freelancers in Georgia do that. I would do that myself. If there was a new translation, I'd do that myself. Here's hoping. Michael Katz, if you're watching, here's hoping that when you're done with Dostoevsky, if he doesn't kill you, as he does tend to kill translators, that you move on to Tolstoy and start with War and Peace.
Talk about tempting fate with the brothers Karamazov. I mean, the second you put your pen down, you basically...
Although the brothers Karamazov seems to me, there's so much performance in it, so much self-conscious performance, whereas the demons, you're just being dragged through this guy's head.
Right.
I think that, as a translator, I would think, I don't read Russian, I would think that translating the demons would be even harder than doing it. For all the other kinds of reasons. It's probably a simpler book to translate, but ooh, it's just horrifying. It's just horrifying. When you read an English language translation, which is all I can do, you can sometimes actually feel the translators losing their ones that you want it to be. Let's see here. Let's see here. And question number 14. In school, was your best subject language arts or English?
Yeah.
Were those the best things for you?
Yes.
Me too. Question number 15. If you were given a book as a present that you had read before and hated, what would you do? This has to have happened to you.
Yeah. I would give it away. I give a lot of books away because I get a lot of books for work, and so I always have a rotation of books, and it would just go in that. It would surreptitiously go in that pile.
What about the whole stereotypical thing where the person is proud to have given it to you? It means something to them. They're going to look for it the next time they're in your house.
Well, I would send a note at some sort of tastefully distanced amount of time, mentioning the book and talking about it and being able to talk about it and saying, being appreciative.
But you wouldn't keep
and of the gift. But I wouldn't keep that book.
There's only so much room. The worst possible scenario in that regard happened to me with an old friend of mine who was also a regular customer at the Brattle, and he was a customer of mine at the bookstore.
Oh no!
And he loved Charles Dickens, and I lost track of how many conversations we had where I said to him, "I love reading about Dickens, but his novels don't do anything for me at all. I appreciate that you love them. I appreciate that you can quote from them, but I don't have any of them myself, and I don't want any of them myself." And 1 year, he gave me a big ornate edition of a novel of Dickens. Just a classic example of someone who the bad kind of gift giver, who says, "It's what I want that matters. I don't care what the recipient wants." Of course, it went on the next Brattle pile, and this was when the Brattle, was happy to take buys off the street. I walked it right in that day, and they were looking at it when he walked in and said, "Oh, that's not the copy I gave you, is it? I shall be quite cross." And I said, "Yeah, it's the copy you gave me. I have been telling you for 10 years that I don't want this book." And he did get quite cross. But then we made it up, and then he died. No special storytelling synchronicity there. It's just how South Boston stories always end. They always end with, and then he died.
So you had a humorous book story, too.
Oh, poor Bill Wessels. I miss him. I really do. He was a heck of a writer. Oh, my God. He gave me photocopies of the long articles that he wrote for the Boston Phoenix when it was a real newspaper, when they had long-form stuff, and it was amazing. I still have them. They'll never be reprinted. They'll never be found. The Phoenix is out of business now. I'm sure their archives are gone. But anyway, before we descend all the way to D Street in South Boston, let's move on. I can't believe he looks so good in his wig, Let's just move on. Question number 16. What is a lesser-known series that you know that is similar to Harry Potter or the Hunger Games? All right, well, let's salvage the Chapter Chicks question by changing it just a bit to: is there a lesser-known series of books or book that you love? Like, we both mentioned a couple in this.
Right.
The go-to name here is always Olivia Manning, because she's so good and nobody knows about her. Nobody reads her anymore.
Right.
I don't know how many people even read her when she was writing books, but
right.
Once upon a time, you would have been able to say Vasily Grossman back when that fat old trade paperback Life of Fate was the only thing.
Yeah.
But thanks to those stinkers at the NYRB, his profile has been raised quite a bit. Stalingrad.
I know, he's a hipster choice now.
They don't read him. The books are too big. They don't read him.
They don't read him like we read him.
I think he's rollicking. But then apparently I think everybody is rollicking. Anybody? Any unknown gems?
An unknown series gem?
Once upon a time, for both of us, it was Percival Everett. But now, like also, he has street cred now.
So. Oh, you just mean lesser known writers?
Anything that nobody knows about in a genre or vein where you'd think people would.
Right.
I could come up with it all day because of the genres that I read, but you just read the one thing.
I just read the one thing, I know.
And it's large. I should point out, you're not going to do it because you're too humble. We actually both suffer from an excess of humility. It's really, really quite tragic, actually.
Well, one it was going to be was this Italian writer, Dino Bizzotti, but he was just reissued by New York Review Books. But they reissued his novels, and he was a great short story writer. So if you ever find his short stories, read those.
Spell the name?
Buzzatti, or maybe there's two Z's.
I should point out here, just as a footnote to Percival Everett, that he owes a lot of that street cred that he has now to you. You started singing his praises.
That's right.
In a high venue position.
That's right. You better not forget it.
Let's see here. Question number 17. What is a bad habit you always do, besides rambling, while filming? But you don't film. So how about just a bad habit in general? Bite your nails. I know some people who do. And one of them, years and years ago, he told me that it's not just that he bites his nails, it's that he farms his nails. Because you have to wait, let them grow. So he was constantly checking to see which ones are coming along well.
Yeah.
And he would do it, for him, it was a complete nervous tick.
Yeah.
So when he was exceptionally nervous, he would bite down to the quick, the blood and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. I know how to do it without biting down to the quick, but yeah, I do it all the time.
I don't have any bad habits, while filming or otherwise. Oh no, I might as well. I do have a bad habit while filming, which is that I always forget. I always forget that the background noise here, it's precious little on a Sunday today, but I always forget that the background noise is a lot less audible to you than it is to me. The camera is picking up me more than it is that. A lot of times I will stop. Sometimes I will rant. Make an angry imprecation. I shouldn't do that because I've listened to some of those videos and you could barely hear what I'm talking about. That giggling was going to be a jab about me ranting, wasn't it? Nah, I think it was. I'll have to remember to rant about that later tonight. Let's see here. Question number 18. Keep in mind they were very young. What is your favorite word? Do you have a favorite word? I think you have to say your wife's first name. Right? Otherwise, the locks will be changed when you get back. Don't all husbands have to say that?
Favorite word. I don't know. I like that word you use. Imprecation. That's a cool word.
I toss off those 50-cent words all the time.
Yeah,
and the only reason that my imaginary booktube friends don't call me pretentious is because I'm obviously not trying to impress anyone. I just use them. I just use them in my normal vocabulary. All right, we'll go with imprecation.
Yeah,
you're going to get plenty of them after sunset, so we might as well go with that. Let's see here. Question number 19 is: are you a nerd, a dork, a dweeb, or all of the above?
Is it for me to say? Isn't that?
It isn't for you.
Isn't that for other people to decide?
No, and it's also relative. It's
yes,
entirely relative.
One person's nerd is
one
another
of the
person's dweeb.
Book reviewers in the English language, in the tiny serried ranks of those super nerds who are book reviewers, you would not be either. What were the choices? A nerd, a dork, or a dweeb. You wouldn't be any of those to the book reviewing crowd, most of whom, they had their formative introduction to books was right around the time they were also getting formative introductions to wedgies, willies, and the dreaded rear admiral. Right, so you could be all of these things to all people.
I could be all.
But it's up to other people to say.
Exactly. You, viewer, can't decide.
They're all wishing that they got 5 videos from
They're
you.
not
every day instead
watching
of me.
anymore. It's 39 minutes in.
Oh, sure they do. Oh, no, absolutely.
Okay.
My Steve streams go for an hour.
Oh, God.
Okay. Question number 20 is vampires or fairies?
Well,
You have never read a book with either except Dracula. Is that right?
have I read books with fairies? I mean,
I know exactly what you were thinking. We actually mentioned his name earlier this week today.
No, I wasn't
We've been
thinking
walking
that.
into a
I wasn't
defamation
thinking
suit.
that, and I wasn't saying that.
Actually, I'm sure the same name came to both.
The answer is no.
Okay, all right. Except for Dracula. You've read-
Dracula.
all right.
The vampire.
Let's pull away from that defamation suit right away. Number 21. Shapeshifters or angels?
There's got to be shapeshifters, right? What are? There's no books with angels.
Closest that either one of us would come is Lacombe an angel. But those are carved angels. Those are angels in marble.
Yeah.
Are there any shapeshifters in Garth's book, City on Fire? There's everything else in there.
I think there must be shapeshifters in books.
Let's see here. Number 22, spirits or werewolves?
You gotta go with spirits.
Spirits. Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, sure.
there's spirits in there.
Can't swing a dead cat in Flannery
book I
O'Connor
read.
without hitting
Yeah,
spirits.
I
All right.
read those.
Then number 23, these aren't going to go on forever, I promise. Number 23 is zombies or vampires.
Or
Have you
vampires
ever-
again? No.
Have you ever read Justin Cronin, Harvard 84? Haven't read The Passage?
No.
His New Yorker vampires?
No, but there is a whole sort of semi-ironic, upmarket lit vampire novel
Yeah.
genre
Created by him
that,
and inspired by his little girl. Gave him the idea for his book while she was out riding her pony.
yes, created by
And if you believe that, I've got a Bridge and Brooklyn to sell you. What about World War Z? Did you ever read World War Z?
Yeah, I read World
You
War
did.
Z, and I read the Colson Whitehead book.
Oh,
and I
there you
read,
go. Okay, so zombies.
there's a bunch of
Get
them.
that. And then number 24 is Love Triangle or Forbidden Love. With extra points, I guess, for Forbidden Love Triangle, which should be 3 siblings, I guess, would be the case here.
I'm not sure that love triangle is any good in a book. Is that good? Maybe it's good. I'm just
You just can't stop kicking Anna Karenina, can you? Poor David Murphy, he's crying in his beer up there.
But at that point, there's no.
To be fair, in the Upper Midwest, they have lots of reasons to cry in their beer. They do it all the time. Would you want to live there? No.
I don't think that's a love triangle.
No?
No, because she doesn't have a relationship with her husband by that point. I don't know.
What about Forbidden Love?
Forbidden love, yeah.
Some of the seamier
Forbidden
Mishima?
love is better.
Did you read any of Mishima's steamier stuff?
I have actually, but I didn't like it, so that wouldn't be. Mishima's steamier stuff is good.
What about David Levitt? Did you come on the review? You came on the reviewing scene after him, right?
I came on after
So
him.
you
I mean,
just read
he
him
was
as a reader.
writing kind of not so good historical novels later. But I read when I was in college and I was reading a lot of short fiction. I read Family Dancing and read his collected stories, and that stuff was incredible.
What about he did The Lost Language of Cranes, right? That's his
And
novel,
he did the
his
Lost
big
Language
breakout
of
novel.
Cranes, yeah, and he did the Steven Spender lawsuit novel that ruined his career.
Ruined his career.
Yeah.
It ruined his career.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, we got into
Forbidden
the
Love.
inclinabula here. So Hannah's books is nodding enthusiastically, and everybody else is saying, "What are these guys talking about?"
What's it called? While England Slept? Is that what
Yeah.
it's called? Yeah.
Yep. Oh man.
Forbidden Love. I'm going with Forbidden Love. I don't think Love Triangle. I'm sure it's good, but I can't think of a good.
And then we'll finish up. Full-on romance books or action-packed with a few love scenes mixed in.
I think it's got to be the action-packed ones, right?
Have you read any of either?
No, but like if I were to, I would want to read like Outlander rather than something else. Rather than
Is
just
there
a
any-
Harlequin.
Is there any chance that a book could come along that would do that? Who would do that? What if, what's his name? Jonathan Safran Foer. What if he did something? And what if his new book? I know.
No, I don't
feel
think
the same
Jonathan Safran
exhalation
Foer
here.
sex scenes.
But- What if he did a book that was sort of a loving homage to, a Donald Westlake action type thing? I mean, he would certainly, just he being him, would certainly come across your plate, right?
Right.
So there'd be at least a momentary consideration of reviewing a book that's heavy into action.
No, yeah, action. Well, I thought this was comparing two kinds of romance. Some with
I guess it could.
Oh no, in general, action. No, I like action books. I don't read a lot of romance. Action books for sure. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, there we go.
Wow. Is this revealing it all?
45 minutes. I
Good
don't
Lord.
think it was. No, but they always tell me that I should always make videos with my visitor.
Yes.
This will teach you.
Yeah.
And if this doesn't, the next time David Murphy comes up, we're going to talk about Keynesian economics. We're talking about von Mises. Get him going on von Mises. Oh my God, he'll just never stop. That'll teach you people.
All right. So close it up. Get back to Dryden.
Yes. It's not. It's either Dryden or shark attacks. You just send your prayers for sale. But I'm going to wrap this up. I'll be back next time without a guest. So I'll see you later, BookTube.